welcome to the Fantasy Rewind Podcast. I'm your co-host, Dylan Stoll, and I'm joined as always by my friend Mike.
Hey!
So today, we're going to get back into Wheel of Time with a little bit of a different approach to it. So Mike, what are we doing today?
We're going to be doing our predictions and wants, our deepest, darkest desires for Season 3 of Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime.
Which will probably come out in like 2 years, but it's never too early.
We're gonna have to re-listen to this by that point and be like, they got this right. No, we were wrong.
Yeah. We're going to definitely make another episode about this probably later on, closer, once we see the trailer for Season 3. But it's always fun to speculate and always fun just to like say, here's what we actually want without being influenced by anything other than our knowledge of the series from reading the books many times, as well as watching the first 2 seasons of Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into that, I'm going to give out the typical reminders. If you want to send us an email, that is fantasyrewindpod@gmail.com. If you want to get at us on X, that is @fantasyrewind. And we are also on Instagram, which is @fantasyrewindpod. All right, Mike, without any further delay, let's dive into the rewind.
Fantasy Rewind. All right, Dylan. So, our predictions. I think maybe we could do this big story things, characters. Let's start with characters, though. What are some of your predictions for our wolf brother friend? Well, no, actually, maybe we should start with story, because then I feel like, because I'm going to talk about characters, and I'm going to be like, these story elements. So let's talk big story elements. What do you think they're going to incorporate into Season 3? Where are they going to go?
Yeah, so this is going to be way more of an unstructured episode because we're coming into this without really a guiding frame, and that's completely cool for me for what this episode is, because it's basically just whatever we want it to be. So what I'll say is that we know from Rafi Judkins himself, the Dark One, that we are going to be getting basically book 4 for Season 3 of Wheel of Time, which is arguably my favorite book in the series. And it's also the book... What's that?
Ooh. Shadows Rising.
Yeah, so I didn't even mention it. Yeah,
sorry.
Shadow Rising.
I said Shadows
definitely.
Rising. That's my favorite book in the series.
Very great book. Can't wait to get into that adaptation, hopefully. But we know that is going to be where Season 3 goes. So knowing that kind of helps hone in what we want, what we would like to see, and just in general, where we think that this story is going to be going. But with all of that being said, what I would really like to see, we need to see the Rubidion arc for Rand and Mat. We need to see Egwene and the Wise Ones.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see Rand become the
absolutely.
Kara-Karn. And I'm not sure if that's going to be our season finale for Season 3, but I think it probably should be. What about you, Mike? What are the big beats that you really want to see for Season 3?
Okay, I mean, you hit on it. Shadow Rising is honestly my favorite book in the series after reading it multiple times. Like, it's the one that I always read through. I'm just like, this was so good. Every piece of it was just such a great...
to me, it's really where Wheel of Time as a series becomes great. It's really like it dives into that lore. It's really the turning point in the series for me.
Well, and it's where too Robert Jordan went from just writing a 3-book trilogy to
an epic,
full-blown. This is going to be a series. Yeah, and so there's a couple of things. One, I would really like them not to ignore the Tyr and the rest of the prophecy. Start Season 3 off with like Tom Maryland giving this whole story about the dragon to people in a bar and talking about how he took Tyr, and have like flashbacks to Rand doing these things. And you don't have to get into all of it, like fighting some of the Forsaken. They can drop that later or whatever, but have that be like an element or a piece to it, so that way that's a a part of the story that doesn't get left behind, in my opinion. Or they can go back to it later, honestly, and wrap it in. But I think that would be kind of a fun way of not having to forget story elements. And I know people are probably listening to this being like, but the Stone of Tears is such an awesome fight. And it is really cool and really fun. But I still think like it's something they could wrap in to the overarching story. What I really want them to make sure they do is they have Elaine and Nynaeve go on the witch hunt, I'm putting quotations in the air, of the Black Sisters, and have that maybe even be the start of the season with Liandrin defecting, taking her Black Sisters with her, and like Elaine and Nynaeve are hunting them down. Like, that is such a huge arc, and I don't want them to get rid of that. Because that's really important for Elaine and Nynaeve's relationship and them developing, and they've already started sowing the seeds of them being independent problem solvers. So keep that going. I am intrigued, though, with how they left things with the Amyrlin, if they're not going to have that be a reason why she's deposed, and sort of move the deposing of her to this next season. I feel like it's coming. And I kind of don't want that, but I feel like it's going to happen. But, I mean, like you said, definitely have to have everything with the Aiel all laid up in there. But I'm just, I'm a little concerned because of how they kind of brought in the Forsaken at the end of this season. If they're going to have them sort of be more frontal antagonists to Rand, or if they're going to kind of leave some of them over to the side for Nynaeve and Elaine and others to deal with, like how they're going to incorporate them. They're kind of wild cards. I mean, we know that in the books, in Shadow Rising, Rand faces Asmodean? Yeah, Asmodean, and, it's with Selene as well, but she might still do that. He might still become a teacher, but it seems like they're really trying to push that onto Logain, and I don't know how they're, like, that's kind of, to me, something that I'm excited about, but really concerned about, because like, what are they going to do with them? In the books, not a lot of them, but a few of them were really just like in a scene or two and then gone. Like, their fingerprints was sort of sprinkled throughout different events and stuff, but they weren't really in the forefront. And I feel like this show really wants to move some of these characters. I
feel also, though, that's the case because so far the Forsaken have been some of the strongest actors in the series. And so you want more screen time for your best actors.
Oh, and great. Brilliant.
I feel like we're going to get more Moghedien than we probably did in the books. But it really also makes me just, like, think about Tanchico and how Elaine and Nynaeve are going to be going there. But at the same time, I'm just, like, talking to myself, and I'm just like, it'd be great for them just to go right there. But there's so much that has to happen first, and they need to go back to the tower. They need to get more training. They need to get that arc done.
Yeah. And they haven't even brought in, too, anything with Chameleon.
I was like, Chameleon? Who's Chameleon?
I know. What am I doing? I want to say Camelot.
Camelin is what you're talking about. Yes.
Because I can't for the
life whole of me remember. Camelin part.
Camelin. Yep. Oh my gosh, Camelin. Just nail.
But so here's the deal too, though. Is like,
I'm so sorry.
On top of them needing to go back to the White Tower for training, we already got the seed sown that Logain was going to be being taken back to the tower, and I feel like that's important when we talk about the disposition of the Amyrlin. And where that can go. But I also just don't really know how they're going to justify sending Elaine and Nynaeve back to the tower if it's not to seek out the Black Sisters without Egwene going as well. Unless she's going to prove to Moiraine that she's gotten so much stronger by being a captive and is able to do all these cool things without doing their fancy water dancing weaves and stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, she's going to end up going, and when she does, that's going to be part
Swan.
of the arsenal against the Amerlin. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like
Gawain Galad. I'd love it if Matt has to go back to the tower to get fully healed from the dagger, and there's a quick scene with him fighting Galad and Gawain and everything. But at the same time, how is he gonna get back with them? Yeah.
Where are they doing that in 8 episodes? Right? I feel like if they're going to do it, they're going to do this kind of quick. They're going to, Elaine and Nynaeve are going back. Egwene is staying with Moiraine for independent study, whatever. And then you have them show up, and the Amerlin's things aren't looking great here. I was injured. There's rumors in the tower, things are going poorly. We heard about Lyanna, and she killed a bunch of sisters on the way out. I have no one I can trust, not even, not even the keeper. Even our mistress of novices was compromised. So I need you guys to go after them. Elaine, you have an aunt that's there, and you guys are going to go visit. And you're going to take Logain, or Logain ends up going. I feel like Logain may end up going with them in this interpretation of the Wheel of Time, because they do want him to be more present, and that's going to bring in more of his character as well. But I don't know. We'll see.
So you mentioned Perrin right off the bat here. And so I think that we do know, because Perrin is the weakest boy.
Single thing about him.
But we know that Perrin is going to go back to the Two Rivers.
He is.
And to me, what that says is that we need to be introduced to Faile in either episode 1 or 2 of season 3. Have something be established where she gets, enthralled with Perrin, or, interested in Perrin enough to go and follow him to the Two Rivers. But her whole deal in the book is that she's a hunter of the Horn. And it's been no secret that the Horn of Valyr is found, and it's been blown, and so all of this stuff is happening, and I'm just I don't know how they're going to do all of this within the short time we're going to get. I just feel like there's so many dangling threads there that I would love to see happen, but I just don't know, especially when they go talking about making Egwene's mom, Meryn Elvir, into a more major character. And I'm just why? Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Maybe she ends up leading the
I don't know. Maybe she took over as Wisdom when Nynaeve left, or something like that.
Yeah. Or she's the one building a resistance army of some sort with the Women's Circle. We don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know. I am a little. I didn't even think about that part of it, and there's a lot. That
Padan Fain
has to happen, because Padan Fain has to become much more of a villain than he is, and what's his reasoning for going back to the Two Rivers to just to bring justice and destroy everyone? We haven't gotten that much of him. He's been really just this elusive, almost just he's here for the fans.
And his corruption of the White Cloaks that happens in the books. I just don't know. Unless he gets in with Dane Bornhold early. And it's hey, that guy that killed your dad? I know where his family is. They're all dark friends. We should go take care of them.
Yeah. And I think, there's going to be a time skip, again, obviously, in between the 2 seasons. But what they decide to stuff in there is this happened, so that's what's going on. Kind of in this season, all of a sudden Elaine and Nynaeve are Egwene and Nynaeve are back in the tower, and Rand's just presumed dead, and all this, and Rand's been in Cairhien, and he's been shacking up with Selene. We're gonna have to sort of be ahead. Maybe Perrin and Faile are in the Two Rivers. Or maybe we see Padan Fain riding with Dane Bornhold, and they're just sort of they're together. And we get maybe reasons why hinted at in dialogue or whatever else, and we'll have to kind of pick up some pieces there. And I don't think that's a great way to do a lot of this, because it sort of muddies the motivations for these characters, and the manipulation
So
of some of the dark friends as well. But they've kind of, I mean, they have no problem
the
throwing
wayside.
some characters
Yeah.
into the meat grinder. Uno.
So what I was going to say as well is that
a lot of different
although
friends,
this is
so
going to be my favorite book, Shadow Rising, it's also where I become most concerned for the series, because I just really don't know with how much the lore gets expanded in from book 4 onward, how they're going to be able to condense that down into 8 episodes and not have it feel insanely rushed. And I just really hope that the network, Amazon, hears the outcry from the fans and just realizes that if they're spending all this money, they need to do it in a way that's going to make this series better and just give it at least 2 more episodes.
Please. I mean, they really do need to. And I think the demand's been there. It's definitely been popular. I haven't looked at the numbers for the second season, but I'm sure it's...
All right, so let's get in, and we did a lot of talking there about just like the general story arcs that we see within Shadow Rising. Yeah, go for it.
I do want to say one thing. When we talk about predictions...
See, that's
what are some of the
exactly where I
pieces
was
that you
going.
think
I
they
was
want to
like,
cut?
we've talked about the story and how it is in the books. Now, how do we feel like it's going to be adapted into the show itself and where we're going to go from there? So, I'm just going to start right off by saying that from all indications, I think they're just cutting Tyr. They're going to just ignore Tyr, not have that happen, which is a huge mistake. But... with Kalendor,
Because Kalendor,
So, I think they're cutting Tyr, and what that will do for me is I think it just makes it, again, an extremely tenuous grasp of any kind of relationship for Rand to have with Elaine. Because he's met her for like 30 seconds in the series here, and his whole reasoning for going back to like his friends was to help Egwene, who there's going to have to be some kind of a reckoning between them where Egwene tells Rand or Rand tells Egwene or both have that mutual understanding that, hey, whatever we had, it's gone. Like, I don't love you like that anymore. Yeah.
They're going to do that in Falma. And probably, and then that's with Elaine kind of coming in and picking up the pieces, and Egwene kind of planned this whole thing. I remember that her thought process.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to like the scenes in Tyr at the beginning of Shadow Rising, where apparently like Elaine and Rand had been sneaking off into corners to kiss and everything, and I'm just really thinking about the implications here. Where since they decided to adult it up and make Egwene and Rand sleep together, and now she's gonna be okay with this new chick that she was friends with coming in and like sliding on in there, and it just complicates things even farther. But that's the kind of drama I feel like they want to focus on with the series here. So as far as what I think is going to be cut out, is I think we're going to have a cut down on the prophecies, have a cut down on some of the more fantastical elements, like the Ylfin and the Elfin, and I think those might be addressed in different ways. Like they might have another pot of tea waiting for Mat and Ruidion.
Or it's just Ruidion's like the rings, and Mat decides to go through too, and what he sees is very different.
So what's something that you feel like they're going to be cutting, or something they might do based on what we've gotten so far?
So I'm going to be and you brought up some good points there with like the romance between Elaine and Rand. I kind of think that maybe they keep Elaine and Nynaeve with Rand and them, and so so Elaine's kind of getting closer and closer to Rand as they're going to Ruidion, and maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not sure how if they're gonna separate them out or
They
not.
have to.
I feel like they have to because they've brought Leandrin up. They have Leandrin, they have Mogadine kind of set up for next season. And it's going to be intriguing to see what they end up doing with them because they also have all the other Forsaken. I don't think they would go as far as making Mogadine the villain for Rand and everyone because then they're completely eliminating the entire Black Sister chase, the entirety of Leandrin in them. It's really tough. I think they will probably cut off quite a bit of the tower. Maybe even the entire.
I feel like they have to do the
division
division of the tower. That's such an important part of the series.
Yeah, it does. That is how Egwene does end up becoming Amerlin. So they would need
the other part. I feel like
need that.
You mentioned though is the Black Sister hunt because that is so crucial to. Again, Elaine and Nynaeve having anything of value to do throughout the series because there's so much for them to do in that section and nothing else really. Like, if they stayed with Rand, what would they do? Be hanging out and be going to the sweat tent with the wise ones like Egwene?
Yeah. And my thing, too, is that they really have not done a good job of giving Rand any kind of time to shine or prove that he's like a Dragon Reborn in any way, shape, or form. And they really need to do that. Rudion should be his fight. I mean, Matt's there too, but like that is his thing. And they need to give him something because they've taken, or at least split everything from him so far.
So here's the other thing.
Yeah. Because otherwise, it's almost like he's the Dragon Reborn, cool, but everyone does everything for him.
Exactly. But here's the thing: do you think they make the Aiels use swords? You think they'll keep them to spears? Okay, because I was going to say that I would be willing to bet, just with the bullshit Rafi's been sprinkling out there, that he's hinted that maybe he'll make Rand do a sword fight later on in the series. So I'm like, okay, maybe they make his confrontation with Couladin a battle between Blade Masters for the Aiel to be called Kara Karn, or he goes and he fights Samael with the Blade Master there. Yeah, something like that.
Maybe a power wrought sword.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's more probably a Forsaken. And, like, it's to a point where it's like they sit there and they're channeling at each other and it's just, like, futile.
Yeah.
And so they make the decision, fine. We'll just do this sword and sword or whatever.
They're weaves.
Because, like, they just keep blocking each other's, like...
Yeah, so one of my hopes for this next season is that Rand gets a moment to shine without being aided by all these other people. Something to show, hey, I am the Dragon Reborn. I am important and powerful, and this is what it means to be the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you don't think they would cut out...
Absolutely not. That is happening. That's 100% happening. Yeah, it is. It really is. But my biggest hope for that is that they make the relationship he develops with Fael matter and important and like feel genuine. And I feel like that's going to be hard to do with the pairing we've gotten so far because exactly.
Well, and especially after they just threw his wife into the meat grinder
and he's been wearing his wedding ring moping the entire time because of that decision. And at the same time, like, how is he going to fall in love with this character that he has yet to meet yet and then marry her in the Two Rivers like he does if they go there this next season?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, a lot there to kind of think about as we move into this next season.
Yeah.
I do want, like, my big wants here is that they like we kind of already sprinkled them throughout our conversation, but giving Rand his moment to shine, keeping in the major story elements of like Rudion in the Waste, the Black Aja hunt, the two rivers, like those three things, and also the division of the tower. And they don't need to make that one as bloody or as big of a deal, I don't think, because honestly, if they're not introducing Galad or Gaon or a lot of those other characters, you could have it just kind of be almost this like end of season thing where it's like Nynaeve and Elaine end up in this town and they find a bunch of blue sisters and they're just like, wait, what happened? And they're just, oh yeah, Swan and Swan was deposed and they kicked all the blue sisters out of the tower and it's now a tower without the blue Aja. Elida is taking control. Whatever it happens to be, but have that kind of happen. I don't really care to see all of that. Reading it was really tough, like hearing about the warders basically killing each other and all of that was pretty brutal.
I could totally see that happening in the season finale for season 3 as well. Like that happening for the girls in the tower division, but then like also Rand declaring himself as the Karakarn on the other side of it all, and have like those two like major event moments happening.
Yeah, I mean that would be.
But
cool.
Again, I just really hope that
would be cool.
The way that we get to these events feels earned. I want it to actually feel like, yeah, you know what? Rand went through some trials and tribulations. He deserves to be the Karakarn. Like he didn't just get handed this from somebody else saying, here you go, sir. And that Nynaeve and Elaine do this cool investigation into the Black Aja, maybe have some confrontations with Liandrin, especially with the relationship between Nynaeve and Liandrin that they've been building, having it be like mentor versus mentee, that payoff, exactly.
Like have some payoff.
And then at the same time, having them groveling to Mogadeen and having Mogadeen be the spider that's lurking in the background. Maybe not having as much of a frontal role right now, but being like the mastermind of all of this like chaos that's about to be sown.
Mm-hmm. Have her be the one who leads the whole tower into a big division,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I think that's awesome. But I think that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't cover everything like, here's our wants, here's our predictions, as much as we just talked about it all together, and I'm kind cool with that. I think, again, this is more of like just a conversation between two book nerds who love this book, obviously, it's our favorite, and just wanting to see this series be successful,
Camelin, Chameleon,
but also be good. And I think I'd rather have it be good and no one like it than it suck and be the most popular show on Amazon. So I just want it to be quality.
Yeah. I would
we don't want to cancel
between those two things, but yes, I agree completely. Yes, exactly. We don't need another like Firefly situation.
All right, but
I think next we're going to be... So our next episode is going to be kind of Percy Jackson, our predictions after watching the trailer and our trailer reaction before that kind of starts dropping here pretty soon, which I'm so excited for because I am a giant Rick Riordan head and I've read all those books except for the newest... I actually have been really bad. I didn't read the newest Percy Jackson book he just came out with, which was his like return to the series and forever, and he released another one which had
I don't know. I haven't read these books, but I'm excited to see this show.
So it doesn't matter.
I'm excited because you're excited, and so I wanna see where that goes.
Oh yeah, Greek God. Who doesn't love like Greek mythology?
Right. That sounds good to
like
me.
A hero's tale. Come on now.
All right. Well, with all of that being said, this is gonna be Two Nerds signing off. See ya.
See ya.